wife shouldn't have dug that hole, Jim.
From Season 4, Episode 4 of Myths and Monsters was quite the eye-opener, and even if we didn't get any big reveals, what we did find out was enough to pull a few details of the overarching story into perspective. At this point, us Fromville fans are just blindly shooting theories and hoping they land whenever the show finally decides to connect all the dots. But the least surprising reveal of the show yet was that the man in yellow eats people. Given how we've all been theorizing about him being a cosmic entity and the true architect of the town, it just makes sense for him to feed on the people he traps, right? But why is he feeding on human organs? I mean, take Pennywise for example. Just like the man in yellow, this cosmic clown is also stuck in a hibernation cycle where he wakes up every 27 years to feed on the fear he induces within the people of Derry. Similarly, the man in yellow seems to return around major collapse points in the town cycle to incite his favorite part of the horror, the moment where all the residents of Fromville tear each other apart, and as it turns out, after everyone is dead, he eats them. But why does he do that? Now, just to be clear, From has not confirmed the man in yellow's true species, his exact feeding rules, or whether the town's cycle works on a fixed number of years. So, from here, we're moving right into theory territory, but it's theory built from what Season 3 and 4 have put directly in front of us. Given how powerful the man in yellow is, it seems bizarre that he waits until the cycle reaches its breaking point and the town is ready to collapse. I mean, this guy can kill people with a single touch, he can shapeshift, manipulate people from a distance, and appears far more powerful than the night creatures, so why wait for decades? There has to be a reason for that, including the part where Victor's memories strongly suggest the man in yellow has done this before, at least during the cycle that destroyed his childhood town. According to the description Victor gives his father, the man in yellow came into town during the 1970s cycle in a car and pretended to be just like the rest of the people. The town took him in and believed the man simply shared their same unfortunate fate. But the true revelation came after little Victor got out of the root cellar on the first morning after the massacre and saw the street littered with brutally dismembered bodies. Initially, he assumed that the creatures that haunt the town had caused it, but that was before he saw the man in yellow eating his mother, Miranda, with his own eyes. Now, just because the man in the yellow suit is the form we most commonly associate with this entity's true form, that might not be the case. Instead, it could just be a disguise this entity took on during the previous cycle in order to successfully infiltrate Fromville as a harmless old man dressed in a tacky yellow color. Or maybe this is just his most common form because Miranda did draw pictures of this man in a yellow suit way before she even entered the town. However, if the entity's goal is to hide in plain sight, it makes sense that it would need to alter its appearance for each new cycle. Since Victor survived the previous cycle, he's aware of the specific form we associate with him, and so the entity was forced to shapeshift into a God-fearing teenager named Sophia and entrap a pastor as her father so she could come into town without being detected. This raises a question about the entity's true form. Is it a formless consciousness? Is it a shadow? Or is it something so horrific and Lovecraftian that, without a human face, a human mind would never be able to comprehend it? I guess time will tell. Having said that, Jade did explain the logic behind the man in yellow's shapeshifting ability back in Season 3 when he tried to apply the laws of thermodynamics to the town's supernatural phenomena. He theorized that energy, or the souls of the residents, cannot be created or destroyed. They can only transform, which is how he suggests that the people who die in the town are not truly gone, their energy is just being recycled, and that lingers within the environment. This so-called scientific approach to the nightmare sort of implies that even the town's horrors must follow a specific internal logic of transformation and recycling. That's how we see an entity that possibly recycles its energy by shapeshifting into different personas to keep its real identity hidden. Moreover, the timing of these two scenes suggests that Jade's monologue could have been direct foreshadowing of the man in yellow's ability. If energy in the town is indeed recycled, then the man in yellow is the ultimate scavenger, taking the lingering presence of the dead and transforming it into a weapon of deception. Jade might have inadvertently explained exactly how the entity operates because it can't create a new identity from nothing, it must recycle the forms of those who were already there. Maybe the disguises he takes are of people living in the town during previous cycles. But now that Victor has finally told his father about his memory of the man in yellow, it makes sense why he peed himself after seeing the yellow suit buried in the forest. Being a child who had to watch his mother's remains being eaten, Victor was so traumatized and scared that he buried all the pictures he drew of of the man in yellow and did everything he could to try and forget any of it happened. That completely explains why Victor never wants to talk about any of his memories or anything that happened during his childhood, because he knows that in order to survive this town, he needs to keep shut because knowledge, as we know, comes at a cost. Also, the man's been through a lot. At this point, he's probably just trying to keep his mental stability intact. Given that Julie also story-walked back to the town's past and ended up visiting the same morning after everyone from the 70s cycle had died, she saw the man in yellow eating a human liver off someone's body with her own eyes. The man was shocked to see her and probably thought she was a survivor as he ran towards Julie in his bloody clothes, so that's how they met for the first time. Moreover, in the first episode of Season 4, we also learned that he lived among the people of the town and got them to tear themselves apart, meaning he always enters each cycle during a very pivotal moment. This leads us to believe that there is some kind of ritual the man in yellow is following when he enters each cycle. This is probably related to the original townsfolk and how he appeared to them in order to offer them immortality in exchange for them sacrificing their children. We know that each cycle in From is a repeating story, so maybe that means the man in yellow has a very specific part that he has to play in each cycle as well. In fact, he could have been a part of the town since the very beginning. In fact, the small ruins behind which he hid his yellow clothes after transforming into Sophia could have been his home, dating back to the 1500s or 1600s, which is the earliest date we see etched in the lighthouse. Maybe that marks the starting point of the town's loop. Since then, the man in yellow has been lurking within the shadows in different forms, and we say this with such confidence because of a tweet posted by the From social media team, which said, "What if the voices Sarah was hearing were the man in yellow the whole time?" When people mentioned how interesting it was that the man in yellow was able to inflict the voices upon Sarah from so far away in Season 1, the social media team literally replied, "Who said he was far away?" So of course, this begs the question, could the man in yellow have been one of the people who were alive in Fromville before? I mean, could he have been a random background character that we didn't really pay attention to? Our guess is the old woman named Tilly, who miraculously knew about Fatima's pregnancy and was suspiciously nice. In fact, we think he may have been pretending to be someone else in the background all this time in order to spy on everyone, and we simply didn't notice. Maybe the only reason we're noticing it now is because he is really moving on to the next stage of his plan, where he wants the entire town to turn against one another. Now, coming to the part about why we think the man in yellow eats people, we think the concept is similar to how Pennywise feeds on fear. From episode 4 sort of suggests that the man in yellow is purposely increasing fear and stress within the town because that emotional state may alter what he's really trying to consume. I mean, just think about it. He specifically mentions that his favorite part is the town tearing itself apart, which automatically means there will be a lot of betrayal, panic, death, and hopelessness incoming, especially because all of that would massively increase fear and stress. Medically, bile is tied to the liver and digestion, but symbolically, the liver has a much older horror meaning. Ancient cultures often treated it as the seat of life, soul, emotion, and even intelligence. So, if the man in yellow is feeding on organs connected to the liver, the show may be using the body itself as ritual language. Then, we literally see him eating the liver, which is the organ connected to bile. So maybe he's not just feeding on people, but rather feeding on something inside them that's been filled with fear and stress. It could also explain why the monsters of Fromville constantly make their victims undergo psychological torture instead of killing them quickly. I mean, when Christy, Boyd, and Kenny dissected the smiley creature, the only thing inside was bile, which might mean that fear, bile, or some corrupted bodily residue is actually what fuels them. And like we said, in ancient cultures, the liver was considered the seat of the soul, human emotion, life, and intelligence. We know that the man in yellow has been toying with their emotions since the very beginning, so no wonder he's consuming the liver, especially because dude's been seasoning it all along. Lastly, we can't ignore the fact that the creatures that haunt the town at night only torture or play with their victims, meaning we never really see them eating humans. While it is possible that they feed on the fear-seasoned bile, our theory is that they might not be feeding for themselves. They may be harvesting victims for the man in yellow. If you think about it, all bodies are dismembered and hollowed out, meaning all organs, including the liver, are taken out by these creatures. What if they take it for the man in yellow as an offering? So far, it's been teased on more than one occasion that this entity considers himself to be a godlike being. The most recent instance is that of the man in yellow asking Sarah to take a sip of water from a glass and then mix the remaining water back into the jug. While Sarah believes this could infect the others in town with whatever she has, Sophia cites the story of Abraham to Christy and Marielle, where all God wanted to do was test whether his most loyal follower would do anything to prove his faith. Similarly, the man in yellow wanted to see whether Sarah was willing to do everything that that was told to her through the voices. Given that she saw Sophia's hand being broken from a mysterious fall into the well, Sarah didn't want to take chances and did what was asked of her, which proved that the entity now has her on the tips of its fingers. On a separate note, if you think about it, the monsters who were once the original people of the town also consider the man in yellow to be their god, as he granted them an immortality deal in exchange for them offering the lives of their children. But the original reincarnations of Jade and Tabitha refused to be a part of this ritual. That's why they ended up disrupting the outcome of it by not becoming immortal monsters. Even if they could save the children, they had apparently sabotaged the ritual in some form, which cursed them to reincarnate over and over again to try and save the children in Fromville. Because Sophia recounts the story of Achan to Kenny in relation to the Matthews family, where a soldier named Achan stole forbidden treasures from Jericho, which led to the defeat of the Israelites. Because of that sin, the entire nation suffered the wrath of God. We believe that because the man in yellow considers himself a god, he punished all the original members of the town because of the original Jade and Tabitha's disruption of the ritual. Maybe he punished them by taking away their humanity or their ability to walk in the daylight, even if they were immortal. This is why these creatures are cursed to hunt in the night and use the organs of the victims as their offering to the man in yellow before the end of the cycle approaches. It's also why we only see them induce paranoia and fear in their victims before killing them, because that makes the bile, or liver, tastier for the man in yellow. Having said that, that's our 2 cents on the matter and the end of our video. What theories have you guys been cooking up? What do you think about ours? Let us know in the comments section down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Otherwise, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and we'll see ya in the next one.